We are about to embark on an immersive journey through the corridors of our minds. Stand by as we prepare for departure.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to the Productivity with Peace of Mind podcast adventure. Our journey will begin in just a moment. Inhale deeply and exhale. Our voyage takes us on a captivating tour, diving deep into the intricate layers of our thoughts and imagination. Brace yourselves for the complexities of our evolution. For a safe and enjoyable journey, stay seated, secure your helmet and protective goggles, and keep hands, feet, and legs inside while the ride is moving. Now relax and enjoy.
Today we have with us Krista Hustead, who has been on a journey of becoming an online business manager after moving 4 times in 4 years. And now her passion is helping business owners achieve that clarity and accountability for their work that they're doing. So, welcome, Krista. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to join you, Lindsay. Thanks for having me on. I am such a fan of what you're doing and what you're doing for these other people out in the world. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. That means a lot. And I want to jump right in on why you think delegation is so critical for our success. Either, it could be personal and professional, right? Like just letting some of that load go. Why is that so important?
I think overall, delegation is really that key to scaling your business. So when you're doing everything all by yourself, you hit this ceiling because there are only so many hours in the day. And so the magic of delegation is that it frees you up to focus on really high level tasks like strategy and vision and growth that really move the needle. So, to know what you need to delegate, I always just recommend starting by listing out every task you do in your business for a week or even a month if you can. That's even more ideal. Then ask yourself two questions. And those questions are: is this something only I can do? And does this task bring in revenue or growth? And if the answer is no, it's a really great candidate to delegate out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I assume even in our personal life, I think
Oh,
that can
yeah.
save us a lot of time as well, right?
Yeah, I know a lot of people who, instead of hiring people in their business, they're like, you know what, I'm going to hire people at home, like a house cleaner or somebody like that to help me out instead, because that frees up my time just as much as it would to have somebody working in the business. So you can definitely manage it different ways. And if you have kids, I'm like, yeah, delegate out a task to them. It may take them longer and they might not do it like you would, but it would still be beneficial for you overall to not have that on your plate anymore.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and even like someone in a professional career, the ability to get delegate to your teams as well frees up that space. So I think it just shows up in so many areas of our life.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like professional career, you're kind of more a little bit more limited because you have this role that you have to fill, but you can still find things that your team members are amazing at and just give them that opportunity to be in charge of a certain area or a certain task or a certain expertise in the business.
Right. Yeah, because it empowers them to grow and then, they get to develop and it's, all about building bench, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We're all about like, empowering people to do their best in businesses.
Yeah.
And so delegation really gives you that opportunity to kind of see where people shine and what they're really good at. And it gives you that opportunity to really focus on what you are good at because not everybody is the same. Everybody has different strengths. So you can really help people shine with their strengths with delegation.
Totally. I love that idea of like shining through delegation because whether it's, delegating personally, professionally, in your own business, it really allows you to kind of step up to that higher level. So I love that point that you made.
Yeah, definitely.
So when it comes to running a team, how can we determine who to hire and also when to hire? Like, when do we need that next person to help us?
I really feel like timing is everything when it comes to hiring. And a lot of us are kind of on the end of, oh crap, we need to bring somebody in like yesterday. We needed somebody already. So, a good rule of
Yeah.
thumb is when you find yourself doing the same, like lower level tasks over and over, and it's cutting into your time that you're spending on the growth oriented activities in your business, or even like helping other people do what they need to do if you're the manager. So that's when it's time to hire. And as for like who to hire, that is kind of crucial to look at some different things. So, first off, it's skill and culture fit. So, skills are, of
Mm.
course, really important, and you need
Yeah.
to find someone who can do the job, but culture fit is even more essential, and I think we forget about this sometimes. And especially if you're in a smaller business, that culture fit is so important. You really want somebody who will align with your values and who meshes well with your team. So if you start with the roles that free up the most time for you as the manager or your other team members, and that support the revenue that support like the revenue generating activities, then this really could be somebody who could help you overall. And you kind of have to look ahead of time because eventually, as you're growing, growth may just bust wide open, and you're like, oh my gosh, I should have hired people last year for this, but I didn't. So I say start looking at what you have now. And if you can bring someone else onto the team, bring them because your business is going to grow.
So I almost think that the culture fit or personality and like attitude, maybe less personality, but more attitude and mindset matter even more than the skill. Cause I know even for myself, there's many times where I've been put in a role where I maybe wasn't yet qualified, but I have that ability to like learn and the drive, right? And then I end up, doing really well at it. But I think that that mindset, like for me, I would put that before even like, okay, have you done the job before? Could you figure it out? Great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get it because you're right. With the mindset, it is more important. There are things that we can teach people, but that
Yeah.
mindset, whether they need like a leader mindset or they really need to be on top of things, you can't really teach that. You can teach
Yeah.
them the skills to get a task done or a project done, but you can't really teach that personality that you need in your business. So if somebody's more analytically minded, they're going to be amazing at analytical stuff. And maybe you need that. And if they're more like creative, then they're going to be really good at creative stuff. But you can't have everybody analytically minded on your team. You got to look for that best fit, you know, where they're a little bit different from everybody else. So that overall, that team that you're building is like one amazing, can handle anything team. So both of them are important, but honestly, yes, skills can be taught way more than personality or, the way they work with other people.
Yeah. I love the idea you touched on of having that diverse group of personalities of like, okay, we have our analytical person over here, we have our creative person over here, and like making sure that you're bringing all kinds of perspectives onto the team so that you're not all just like one track mind. Cause then you can't like
Yeah.
fill all roles and you can't move forward because like you need someone kind of like in the stars, visionary of like, ooh, I thought of something nobody else would have thought of. But then you
Mhm.
also need that person who's going to be very rigid and be like, okay, your project managers or your leaders who are going to keep everybody on track and, keep us moving forward on the tactical things that that visionary person's like, task what?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You need a good mixture because then that team really can handle anything that comes to them, like any project that happens. And it's really great too because you get different ideas, like you said, that creative has different ideas than an analytical person would. And so you really can bring the best way of doing things to the table because everybody has their own little ways of tweaking it to making it even better and better.
Yeah. And there's something you talk about called the task audit. So I want you to tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about that and how we can use it to help us understand, like, how do we put those different people on the team into the right roles and into the right projects and tasks, etc.
So a task audit is basically a process where you evaluate all the tasks you're currently handling. And everybody on the team needs to do this. So you, if you're the business owner or the manager, whatever, you need to do it, and all of your team members need to do it as well. And I usually recommend, breaking it down by daily, weekly, and monthly tasks. Or if they're like occasional, you can also add those in. And then you're going to rate them on two scales: the value that they bring to your business and the energy that they take from you. So overall, you're trying to figure out, okay, who likes to do what, or what would they want the opportunity to do? So I have them actually rank it from a scale of 1 to 10 and be like, how much do you enjoy doing this task? If it's a 7 to 10, I'm going to leave that task with that person. If it's six,
Yeah.
like 4 to 6, I'm going to try and see if I can delegate it out to somebody else, like change a little bit around. And if it's a one to
Yeah.
three, I am definitely taking that off their plate as much as I possibly can, because I really
Yeah.
believe that 80% of the things you do in business, you should enjoy, because
Mhm.
everything can kind of be shifted around if you have a team. If you're not just doing it all by yourself or just with one other person, you can shift a lot around and really work on having people do what they are the expert at and what they really shine at and what their energy really wants to do, their expertise, what they're really, those opportunities that they've always wanted. So you really want like things that are helpful to you first off. If you are the manager or the business owner, you wanna look at yours first and delegate those out, and then look at your team members, because they will feel like you actually care about them when you're trying to work with them and be like, "Hey, why don't you love this task, or why don't you like this task? What can we improve to make it better?" And when you open that communication up, your team members really feel like you care first off, and then, like, they can actually do work that they enjoy, which means everybody's gonna do a better job. If you're doing work you love, you're definitely gonna be doing a better job at it.
Okay, so I love this idea of enjoying work because I think there's so much out there around like grinding and hustling and like doing the hard things and like just getting through the hard things. And even as you were talking, I was thinking like, yes, we can delegate some of it, but or shift priorities around so that people are in the right role so that we're enjoying what we're doing. Like if person A hates this thing and person B actually kind of enjoys it, like
Yeah.
secretly, like they're like, "Ooh, I kind of like going through spreadsheets," right? You're like guilty pleasures. You shift things around to get the right things with the right people. And also we can actually change the task if it doesn't work or get rid of the things. Like if we're like, nobody likes doing this, doesn't even provide that much value, maybe there's something we can actually take off of our to-do list because I think a lot of times we're so good at like new shiny ideas, but like how often do we go back and actually reevaluate what we're already doing of not just re-delegating or reprioritizing, but what needs to go? Like what just needs to get like deleted off the task list, right?
Yeah, I love that because I love to do like what's called a start, stop, continue and reevaluate
Yep.
every quarter of, okay, what do we need to start? What should we continue? What's working well? And then what should we stop? Because it's not even working. So why put the energy into it if it's not even working? So that is brilliant. That's so smart.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's honestly one of my favorite things to do in any realm of work or business and just really being honest about like, okay, just because we've done something forever doesn't mean that's the best way that we need to do it. Like I know I've coached our managers at work so many times on like, oh, well, we've done this, for 40 years, we've done this for 20 years. And I'm like, but is it helping you? Like, is it, and then they're saying that's the same person that's complaining of like, I'm working 60 hours a week and I'm exhausted. Well, are you evaluating what you're doing and is it really working? Or can you delegate it, right? So there's kind of those two pieces.
Yeah, definitely. I I love the idea of like making our plates a little simpler and easier because we sometimes overcomplicate things for sure. So if we've been doing the same thing over and over again, we sometimes get in that rut of not reevaluating, is this really the best way? So yes, we definitely can take things off of our plate, make our lives a little easier, not have to work 60 plus hours a week. I would hate to do that. I know maybe some workaholics out there are like, "Yes, please give me 60 hours," but most of us are we want life outside of work, that we're not married to our businesses. So we want to make sure that we
Yeah.
have that time to focus on other things. So definitely finding ways with the task audit of eliminating, delegating, shifting things around. And honestly, I feel like when people are doing what they love, they do it faster than other people. So that is another way to reduce the time that it may take a certain task or project in your businesses.
Yes, yes, for sure. And then when we look at like all of these steps, we're doing the task audit, we're hiring people, we're looking at our team and everything and what's on even on our own plate. But when we're hiring people and then we look at like the onboarding, I think something really crucial is that expectation that we set or that precedence that we set of when we're bringing someone on of that culture and like of what we're expecting of like okay, we do task audits, like how do we bring them on properly so that they can then be effective in all of those systems that we're setting up.
I think it's important as a business to have your own like specific written out, this is how we onboard, and make
Yeah.
sure that you are communicating really, really well during that process. So, honestly, the whole onboarding process for me really starts with a clear job description. If you haven't
Hmm.
clarified and it's not clear what type of job they're going to be doing, there's going to be confusion from the beginning. So be specific, like very specific about what you're looking for and what success looks like in that role, the skills that you need, and the outcomes that you expect. And then once you've found those potential candidates, you go through the interview process. And remember, we're going beyond just technical skills because that cultural fit is also important. So ask questions that reveal their problem solving abilities and how they handle feedback, because that's also
Yes.
important in onboarding. If they can't handle feedback well, that is going to be a problem in your business, especially when you're working with a team. Maybe they have team projects, other things they're doing. They are going to have to accept feedback, especially in that first 30, 60, 90 days. So that communication really is key. They need to understand your business. So I like to always make them feel like they can ask questions, because if they feel like they can't, then there's probably going to be a lot of, assumptions made, and that's not helpful for you. It's not helpful for them. So when you really show them that you are there to help them succeed, they will feel that they can ask questions and be more involved in different things. So you're going to give them the access to the tools and then make regular check-ins to make sure they're integrating really well with the team overall. And that's really what a solid onboarding experience is built off of.
Yeah. There's a couple of things you said that I really, really like. One is which like, are you a problem? Are you a good problem solver? Because I think that's universal to like every business, every relationship, every personal experience, right? Like, can you problem solve is kind of the core seat of life. And then also having those really clear expectations, I think is just so important. We couldn't say it enough of, when you're talking about are they coming in knowing exactly what they're going to get, exactly what's expected out of them, exactly how we work and operate as a team? Because then we know if we're going to have a good fit and that lowers turnover.
Oh, yes, for sure. People want to stay where they feel valued and where they know what they're doing. If you're feeling lost in your job, you're not going to stay there. You're going to find something else where you feel like you're actually making a contribution and shining. So they are not, if you don't have a clear expectation of, hey, this is what this role is and this is what you'll be doing, people may people may leave quickly. And I know that the turnaround they used to say like 3 to 5 years. Turnaround can be even faster now because people are really looking for jobs that they enjoy and that they like to work with the people there, that they fit in that culture. So everybody's really looking for those types of jobs and opportunities.
And another thing you had kind of touched on before too, without saying it, is kind of that like psychological safety. Because you were talking about when the manager or leader can say, like, I'm truly here to help you. And I want you to grow and develop. Because I mean, honestly, like we don't want people to leave. I think there's a lot of times like intimidation around like, oh, you're my boss, or you're hiring me, or in my position, I'm HR. So, oh, you're HR, right?
Oh,
And so it can feel intimidating, but a lot of times when we flip that script of you said it so perfectly of like, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you grow. And yes, we're here to support the business, but we're also here to support you because guess what? Without you, we don't have a business. We need people to create an organization, and we need an organization so that people have jobs. One does not exist without the other.
yeah, you are so right. People, if they really feel like their management cares about them, they're going to stay longer. I know I've read a lot of articles
Yes.
about how when people leave, it's because of management. And honestly, I've left jobs because of management, because of I didn't really feel like I was valued. I didn't feel like they were really utilizing me the best way that they could. So I think the task audit and having a really clear onboarding process really help with all of that. And then those check-ins that you're doing, don't come in there being like, "Oh, I'm your manager and I am gonna make sure you get everything done," right? You're coming in as a real person. Treat them like a real person. That's how they want to be treated, and then they'll do their best work, honestly, because they'll feel like you care. You're there to help build them, grow their skills, grow their expertise, and maybe they won't stay with you forever. That's okay, but they'll remember the time that they spent with that company and always value it, which I think is as important.
Totally. And I think those check-ins are so important because you make such a good point of like, it's not just that first impression. It's how do you maintain that? How do you keep that going long term? What for the duration of while they're with you?
Yeah, honestly, I make sure that I have regular check-ins. So I am a manager of online businesses, and I come into a client's business and I'm like, hey, I want to have time with this team member. And there's some very specific questions that I love asking. One is, what are you doing that you don't really like? Because I want to know. I want to know what they don't like and see if that's
Yeah.
something maybe I can take off their plate and move to somebody else who does enjoy it. Because if we have that diverse team, generally we'll have somebody who likes to do it. And then the second question is, what would you like the opportunity to do that you haven't yet? Because I think
Mm,
that's also important because then we're valuing where they want to go, what they want to do in the business, and where they see themselves in a year or 2 years or 5. And then that way, they're more open to me and what I'm trying to tell them and help them with, and they feel like I really value them because I do value them. I want them to just feel that. And those are two of the main questions that I love asking just to kind of see where they're at and what I can help them with.
yeah. Like I feel like we all need to go write those questions down and save those to ask every single member of our team because those were so good.
Thanks. They're ones that I love to ask. They're people are just fun to talk to. And honestly, if you're treating them like people and you're like, "Hey, this is where I want to help you grow," then it just is so nice. You might need to cut that out, but I'm just like, I love people.
I love people.
Like, I don't know. I do. I like to talk to people. I like to know what their dreams are because don't know. My motto of like 80% of the time they should be doing something that they love. That's one way that I can really make sure that I get them doing what they love by them answering those questions for me. So it's very beneficial for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and that question, like obviously being in HR, I'm a huge proponent of growth and having a podcast, about productivity. I love, development and growth and learning. And that question of like, what do you want to learn about or what do you want to do that you haven't yet? Oh my gosh, that could open so many doors. And like, listen, if you're not even a manager or a leader or a business owner and you work for somebody, ask those questions of yourselves, like do yourself a favor and then bring those answers to whoever you report to or to your manager or leader or whoever. And listen, if they don't like respond or reciprocate, find a company who will, because that's where the world is going. Businesses are evolving, and the businesses who don't evolve in that direction will be left behind, because people will levitate towards the one who are the businesses and leaders who are listening, who care, because people make up our businesses.
Yes, we definitely can't have a thriving business without the right people, and you should be valued regardless of your role in any business. You should be valued, and that's just a common human aspect that I think has been lost sometimes in some businesses, but it's very important. So I love that you said, ask those questions to yourself. I hadn't even thought of that. So yeah, ask those questions of yourself. If nobody's asking you yet, say, hey, these are some questions I heard that I should be asking myself, and this is my answers to them. Can you help me with those?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And then share the podcast with them.
Right?
And so that they can go ask the rest of the team that. So I want to look at project management for a little bit as well, because I also wear the project management hat, and I'd love to know your approach on a project management, especially when you are working with all of these different businesses with all these different teams and you guys aren't in the same location. So how do you manage all those pieces and make sure that everything still moves forward?
So for remote teams specifically, that clarity and communication are everything. I
Yeah.
always recommend using a project management tool if you don't have one. There's lots of them out there. I know a lot of online businesses use Asana, ClickUp, Monday. There's so many. And it's just to keep everyone on the same page and to make things easier for you as the project manager. And these tools specifically, they allow you to assign tasks, to set those deadlines, and then monitor their progress without having to constantly check in. Because even though we're remote, we still don't want to be micromanaged. And so this is a great way where you can just kind of see at a glance where everybody's at. The other key element is really having clear communication channels. I like to have a daily or a weekly check-in meeting, preferably weekly, because when you're working remote, you're like, I don't actually want to check in every day and have a meeting every day. So preferably weekly. And then depending on the project, we use Slack or another messaging app for those really quick questions and updates. So with online projects and the projects that we're doing with remote teams, it's all about keeping that team aligned, even if you're not in that physical space. Now, if you are in the physical space, it's easy to just go and check in at their cubicle or wherever you're working at. Hopefully it's not a cubicle. I really hate those, but um, hopefully it's a nicer office, like an open. I like the open spaces versus a cubicle. But hopefully you're checking in with them and just keeping everybody aligned. But I think that clear communication, some sort of task management tool are so helpful with running projects and keeping them going smoothly, helping the team feel like they're not being micromanaged, that they can get their work done on time. Giving them that responsibility, I think, is important because then they feel like their contribution is actually worth it when it really is. But if you're micromanaging and you're trying to like say, hey, this isn't done yet. Hey, this isn't done yet. Uh, yes, I know because my deadline is this date, right? So, just having those clear due dates, clear tasks, and then when you're managing that project overall, making sure that you understand the flow of that project so that you know what comes after what, who needs to have something done so somebody else can do it. And sometimes those tasks may need to be shifted as well. So if it's something that somebody's doing and then someone else needs to come in and do something else, maybe you can combine those together and have one person doing that whole thing instead of having it so piecemeal where everybody's reliant on everybody else, kind of try not to do that as much as possible with the project. It really makes things smoother, more efficient, and helpful and less frustrating, especially if you're remote, because communication takes longer when you're remote than it does if you're in an office. So you need to schedule that in to whatever project you have of that longer communication time. And I've worked with teams that are remote across the world. So it's not even like, oh, I can work on something in my time zone. I'm in Pacific time zone, and I can just send it to them and hear back from them in a couple hours. No, they might be sleeping. They're not
Mhm.
even available. It's going to be another probably 24 hours. It's going to come to me when I'm sleeping. So that's 2 days time before I even have that piece that I needed to work on that next section of the project. So it's really important to set those very clear expectations, communications, deadlines, all of that up front so that everybody knows where we're at. And honestly, I also make sure I put in a buffer of a week. I buffer a week because I'm like, okay, it's due then. All right, we're making the actual due date a week earlier
Ooh, I
so
like
that
that.
I have a buffer, because if not, with the remote teams, it's the communication is just a little bit slower, and it's just going to be that way regardless of where you're at. So it's been very helpful. That's kind of what I do.
I really like that. And I think it also solves a couple of other things. I think it takes away like the overlap of like making sure that work is not being duplicated or efforts are not being wasted. And then the other thing is, I don't know why this visual just came to my head, but it did while you were talking. I was like, normally explain it as like spinning in our head of like overwhelm, indecision, all these things. But I'm envisioning like this like carousel with all these horses in our head of like everything we need to get done. And there's right, there are all different colors and designs and like stars and stripes all over them. And it's like this, like all the music is like playing and distracting you from thinking clearly. But if you take that out and you have that in a project management system, you don't have to think about that. And then you can step to that higher level of really managing what you're doing versus getting stuck in the mud.
Yes, definitely. It's so easy to get stuck. I call it in the weeds overall of like those day-to-day
Yeah.
tasks. It's so easy to get stuck there, but really you need to have that bird's eye view of everything that's happening. So when you put it all out on paper, I don't recommend paper, but hypothetically, putting it all
Right.
out there, then when you go to bed at night, you can actually relax because you don't have to remember every little thing. Your project management tool is doing that for you. So that is so important to don't be running on that carousel. That's not very fun. And you're going to get
Yeah.
exhausted. Me and my daughter rode a carousel 3 times in a row because they couldn't get it figured out. And we were like, we're done. We are done. Okay. You don't want to be on there very long. One ride is enough,
Right.
and then get off, write it all down, make sure you know what's going to happen next, and that flow of how to make it smoother, more efficient, and help your team members out reach the goal for that project.
Yes, absolutely. And as we look at these projects and managing these different things, I think it's important also to stay creative. We talked a little bit about how, having that creative person on the team and like making sure we still have that element of creativity. So how do we balance, our own creative leadership with effective management practices?
I really feel like this is where delegation becomes a really big asset for you. So as a creative leader, your energy should be focused on innovation and vision instead of being bogged down in the day-to-day management. So if you build a strong team and you delegate operational tasks, you yourself can be free to focus on more of the creative side. So one way to maintain this is to kind of block out specific time in your schedule for your creative work and then protect that time. And just trust that your team will handle all of the day-to-day management of things because you do have that clear communication, at least you should at this point. And you should be able to have those strong systems in place so everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, what they need to be working on next. You have your due dates. Even if there's multiple projects going on at a time, everybody still knows what they're doing. And it helps you not only be able to have that time for the creative work, but also keep the business going even when you're not around. So having those strong systems in place for project management and that communication, it helps you stay in the loop without taking you away from your creative zone.
I totally agree. So once we get our teams together and we've delegated and reshift priorities and taken things off of our plate that just don't need to be there and cleared the plate a little bit, I think something else that's really important to kind of wrap this all back up together is the trust piece. So how do we build trust with our teams particularly around remote teams. I know we're not all remote, but I think that a lot of us are going in that direction, or even maybe hybrid. So how do we build trust as teams?
When you're not physically together, it's a lot harder to foster that team connection. People aren't
Yeah.
chatting around the water cooler. They are not eating lunch together. They're kind of doing their own thing and then coming in only for those weekly meetings or daily meetings that you have. So I
Yeah.
recommend that you start creating some opportunities for team bonding, even if they're virtual. So like having a virtual coffee chat or maybe even
Ooh.
a team building activity, and that's really fun to kind of see others connect with each other overall.
Yeah, I really like that. I know, like, for our HR team, we'll do a couple of offsites each year, and where we get together, do some activities, but not all teams have the luxury to do that in person, or even if you do, they're few and far between, right? So being able to have those touch points virtually in between, I think are so valuable.
Yes, they definitely are. And it really helps to strengthen those relationships with each other. So when you feel like you know the team that you're working with, your coworkers, you feel like you can ask questions, that you can support each other. And it's really essential for that successful team. Another thing that I really love to do that I forgot to mention was actually to set up a water cooler Slack channel where people can just
Ooh,
put in anything about their lives. So I've had some people share, when they had like a baby that's born, or maybe they went to Disneyland, or, did something fun over the weekend. They wanted to share it with their coworkers. We give them that opportunity and that space to do it so that they feel that, yeah, they can be a person. We don't just have to talk about work, even though work's important. And when you're working remote, you feel like you can only work on work. Um,
yeah.
so I feel like that really helps them feel that deeper human connection with their team members. And then it just builds that trust overall. And when you, as the manager or leader, go in and also share things that are happening in your life, like, hey, I went to this really cool soccer game, Messi was playing, like all of these things, that they learn new things about you, and it's more fun and interactive for people.
I think that's a great point of, like, when you know the person working with you, that trust naturally follows, and you feel good, and it's fun and exciting because it almost feels like a friend, or you have that great connection that you feel good about who you are spending, because we spend a lot of time working in our lives.
Yes, we do. We do. And I feel like I've been working remote for so long now. It's been over 5 years. I've just been
Yeah.
remote, and I do sometimes miss that chance to just kind of chat with my coworkers, because some of the coworkers I've had are my friends for life. And
Yeah.
I don't want people to miss out on that opportunity, even if they are working remote fully, or even if they're in a hybrid. You still need to
Yeah.
have that chance to make those friends. So I think with different key strategies, I know HR is always really good about making sure that people can, have those relationships with each other. Most of us are not HR. I am not HR. I don't know how to run that. But, just having that water cooler chat really has changed a lot of teams for me. And I've had a lot of team members come and say, hey, this is my favorite team to be with. And I love that. So when I have my one-on-ones with them, they're like, I love being a part of this team. I'm so glad. And I'm like, "Thanks, me too. I'm glad you're here because I know so much about them now that I'm like, we are friends. And if we could meet in person, we would." So someday we'll
Yeah.
probably get there, but for those remote teams, even those virtual things make a big difference, make them feel like they're an actual person in a business versus just another body filling the work.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, this has been super awesome. And I feel like you've just shared so much value with us today. And I'd love to know, just kind of wrap this up, one piece of advice that you would give to a leader or a business owner who is maybe hesitant to delegate or hire someone new on their team, or bring someone in from the outside.
I would say this: the longer you wait to delegate, the longer you hold yourself back from growth. Delegation really isn't just about taking those things off your plate, like we've talked about today. It's really creating the space for things only you can do, and your time is valuable. So when you empower others to take on those tasks, you're really investing in your business's future success. So even if you're just going to start small, I would say start now because your future
Mm.
self will thank you.
Ooh, I love that. Even if you start small, start now. Beautiful.
Yes.
And I know you have a free gift for us, a free guide. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the free guide I have for you is Are You Ready to Hire? And it's 8 questions to ask yourself before outsourcing. And it will kind of run you through the task audit a little bit and just kind of touch on all of these different things to know if you're ready to start hiring people on, where you're at financially, and just answer those 8 questions and you'll know if you're ready or not. So it's a really great one to approach delegation and team management with this guide. And I'd love for you guys to just kind of dig in and see if it helps you to know if you're ready to hire first off, and then how to go about it and what tasks you can actually give them from kind of our conversation here and then also in that guide.
Beautiful. So if you are someone who hires, that would be a great resource to go grab. We will link that in the show notes. And Krista, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your experiences, sharing those great questions to ask ourselves and our teams, and really breaking it down how to enjoy our work through delegation, through hiring, and just let's have fun and connecting with each other. So thank you so much for your time today. This was such a blessing. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've loved it, Lindsay.
Thank you for braving the inside of your mind with me. The better we understand ourselves, the more deeply we understand the world. And as our awareness grows, life just gets better and better. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review and share this with anyone else you think could benefit from listening. A quick reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, and the discussions here are not a substitute for professional advice. If you're dealing with a specific issue or need personalized guidance, please consult with a qualified professional. Your well-being is important, and this podcast is simply a platform for sharing insights and experiences. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time.